Hi, this is Dave from Garden Gnomes, etc. This kind of happened about 6 months ago to me, and it concerns family tree. My wife was at the computer. She asked me, "Hey, did you ever wonder who's all in your family? Did you want to go back a few generations?" And here's our family tree. It even says our name on there. Trouble is, all the pictures in here aren't us. So anyways, getting back to the story, she wanted to pay this fee to find out who was in our family, going back how many years, I don't know, but anyways, I says, I already know who my brother and sisters are, my parents, my grandparents, relatives, uncles, aunts, nephews, cousins, whatever. Even knew my great-grandparents and great aunts, uncles, all their kids. I says, I don't really need to go any further. I says, we're German. I says, how far you want to go back? You may not want to know who's in your family. And, oh, I just was told I didn't have sisters, so I guess you do really need a family tree if you're going to know who's in there. But anyways, getting back to the family tree, I says, and she kind of looked at me, she says, you German people, that you seem to have not very much of a personality or adventure. I says, well, take it what you will. I says, I know everybody that I want to know. I says, I don't care to go any further. So a couple weeks went by, and she looked at me and started laughing at me, and I says, what's the big joke? And she says, well, the funny thing is, I found your family tree on the internet, and I says, well, how do you know how correct it is? She says, well, I found your great-great-great-grandparents. They're in Australia. I says, what do you mean Australia? I says, we never visited in Australia. And she says, well, we found them in, I guess, the land down under. They were so darn down under, whatever, that they were petrified. And they're still alive. So they are coming up here to visit you, and they'll be here in about a month. So about a month passed. I says, well, where's my lost family at? And she says, well, you're not going to believe this, but they're on a cruise for a month. And I says, what kind of cruise? Is it a luxury liner, or are they coming over by boat or raft? She just laughed and smiled, and that was the end of it. So a couple weeks go by, and I says, well, where's my long lost grandparents at that you found on the internet? And she says, well, they're in California. I said, what do you mean in California? They didn't pass the customs. They're stuck in customs. And I says, yeah, sure. I says, I know about California. What's that song, California Dreaming? They're probably dreaming somewhere in there, and that's probably your dream on the internet. So I didn't say much more. A couple weeks go by, and I says, where's these supposed family members of mine? Where are they at? And she says, oh, they're in Texas now. I says, what do you mean Texas? Why would they be in Texas? And I'm thinking, I says, well, I got cousins that live in the Houston area. And I says, well, they're probably visiting. So I says, are they visiting my cousins in Texas? And she says, no. And she says, they're somewhere else. And I says, the only other part of Texas I know is Garland, Texas. And she says, that sounds right. I think they're in Garland. I says, well, I know people in Garland. And I says, the problem with Garland, we had just watched this movie here in Ohio. Sometimes in the winter it kind of gets cold, you go and rent movies. Well, the kid says there's a great movie called Zombieland. I says, Zombieland. So I went to the family video, picked one up. It was only 50 cents. So I got it home, and it kind of concerned me. It was, and I guess the gist of the movie, and with my son telling me it was good from kids, you probably needed to drink a lot of beer, or take the route that I did and fall asleep. But the gist of it was people were trying to get from Garland to Ohio, and they had to pass all these zombies to get there. So I'm kind of concerned now from Garland, and from what I'm gathering, I'm wondering what I'm going to get here. So the day finally came. Oh shoot. You know what, my producer just says, I got to throw a commercial. Can you believe that, a commercial for a video? Okay, the commercial goes like this. Visit www.garden gnomes, etc. It's like garden, and then gnomes with a G, and then plural with an S, etc, meaning there's more than just garden gnomes, etc.com. We will bring your gardens to life, whatever. But anyways, that's enough of the commercial. Back to our story. So it came time for me to go to the airport to pick up my great-great-grandparents. I'm kind of getting excited here. So for all videos, you have to have props, and since we have a budget here, I had to go get these cups, and you'll see how they play into the video. And by the way, just like a smart shopper like most of you guys out there, I didn't buy them at the first place. I used my head, and I was a smart shopper, so I went to about a dozen places looking for the cheapest cups. I only needed actually one of each, so I didn't need a whole big bag of them. So these were like $3.40 a piece for the bags. I wanted to slice my cost by 50 cents, probably $1. So by the time I ran around the city looking for them, I ended up at the same place I was at in the first place. So I bought them, and I figured with being just slightly over $7, under $7, and all the gas I put in, yeah, I got probably about $17 cups here. Didn't say I was the smartest person in the world, but here's our thing for our video. So I'm up in the air, went to the day of the airline here, or airport. I'm up in the upper concourse. I think it was concourse 13, so I don't know. You can think of what you want. Is it lucky or unlucky? I'm looking out the window, and out of the corner of my eye, I see these two funny characters. Not very big, but they had these funny hats. One was blue, one was red, and they're going down. It was funny because they were on the runway. They were going against the planes. The planes were coming in, and they were underneath, and every time the plane went by them, they kind of blew over, and just like those round circular trash cans in the wind, you see them blowing all around the neighborhood. That's what these guys were doing. They were going down the runway. One time they were going up and down like this, and the next time they were in unison like this, and all of a sudden the wind would come and blow them over, and they'd tumble like this, get up and go, and so you get the idea. So all of a sudden you look, there was about 8 or 9 cars flashing lights. It must have been the airport police. They come and they trapped them in. They made it like an octagon. They go in there and you see these hats all flying around. Finally they get these guys, funniest thing you ever saw. They throw them in the back of the car. So as time went on, I was looking, I just had the feeling that I would see them out there again. Well, it never happened, so I fell asleep in my seat, and I woke up startled. I was kind of looking at a newspaper here, and fell asleep, and I woke up. Everybody was gone. There's nobody sitting around waiting for the plane to empty, except for there was the pilots and a couple stewardess. So I get up and I look, and down the concourse I see these two funny little tips, because they were small, you could just barely see them. Going up and down, and they're getting closer and closer, and I says, I still got time, so I'm reading the paper, sort of like this. I'm looking and looking, and then I sort of took the corner down a little and peeked, and lo and behold, they were right there in front of me, staring at me. The female, or the older lady, was smiling, and the older guy was kind of staring at me like he wasn't too happy. So I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I just started reading, and I felt like somebody was looking at me. So I looked again, and they were right there looking. So shoot. So I put the paper back up, and I'm reading the newspaper, and I'm trying to figure out, should I hide? Should I try to get underneath something? Should I try to find a couple fat people? Maybe I can exit out of there. Well, there's nowhere where to go. So you know how you go on vacation, you might go to Mexico or the Bahamas or whatever, and you don't know where you're going. Well, people are always there for the motel or resort, and they hold up the sign, and you're supposed to go with them. Just then I saw the dreaded sign, Bauer. But right then and there I knew that I was the one who they came looking for, and I guess the joke was on me, so I went up there and kind of introduced myself to them, and unfortunately, neither one of them said a thing. Nothing. Not a word. Of course, the lady looked at me, smiled. The grandpa kind of looked at me, kind of like with evil eyes. So we're going down to the concourse. I says, just come with me, we'll go home. So everybody's looking and laughing and smiling and pointing. It was kind of like where I turned beet red. I was kind of embarrassed. So we get home, and fortunately we have a Kodak camera, so we were able to get some Kodak moments. So I want you to meet my grandparents. They must be probably way down the line, probably a few hundred years old, but they're alive here. So this is Grandpa, Grandma. My kids have the camera over there, so we're going to take some pictures. Just bear with us, because you never know when you're going to see these guys again. They might take off. So we're going to take the picture. They might change your expressions here. What? The battery's red now. She didn't get a damn picture. Okay, so anyways, we should be lucky. We got all this on video, and by looking at these guys, I don't think we're related at all. I think there was some practical joke on the internet. How the heck is the family tree going to work on there? So, being the smart one that I was, I took a DNA sample, sent them in, and of course they said that these guys are too petrified. They couldn't figure out. It was inclusive that these guys were any relation to me. So I says, okay. So I developed my own test. It's called the emptiness test. Emptiness test. Now everybody has a certain degree of emptiness. You just don't know it, but you do. Now, it's a measurement between one ear to the other ear, and somewhere in there, there's a little bit of emptiness. So we're going to take this test. We're going to see if they're related to me. I think there's anybody home. Nobody home here either. Somebody home here. Maybe not a whole lot home, but so I'm not related to these. And I kind of think I was part of a practical joke. To me, I think these are gnomes, but I'm not sure. But anyways, what we're looking at here is we established that we're not related. It was a bad joke. And they're on my website for garden gnomes. Now you guys probably look at the picture and says, there's no way. I've had people say, there's no way they're 48 inches. So here's their tape measure. We're going to look. My grandma happens to be 48 inches. Grandpa's about almost 49 inches. I kind of think back then we were small pygmy people, and that's probably why we had the big hats to make us look smaller. I mean, to make us look bigger. Her hat's about 22 inches, 21 inches for him. And another thing, people, you got to realize when you get this big, there is no more dimensions. We're talking measurements. Nobody wants to know dimensions. They want to know your measurements because this is big. So usually guys, when you go out on the first day, you're trying to figure out everything there is about your new girlfriend. You're not going to ask her what her dimensions are. You're going to ask her what her measurements are, right? Same way with girls. You're not going to say, hey, what's your dimension? You're going to say, hey, what's your measurement, right? And something doesn't sound too right there, because when I was growing up, there's no way I would ask some girl her measurements, because you'd probably get a slap across the face. But who knows how kids are today. So anyways, we're going to check out. And mind you, people, I probably watch way too much 2.5 Men, so that's probably why things are the way they are. So we're going to check. We already got established she's 48 inches high. We're going to... It's kind of hard to take this measurement, but I did have one girlfriend. She says, you can't take the upper dimension. It goes by cup size. So when you look at the cup size here, I'm thinking maybe cantaloupe cups. Is there such a thing as cantaloupe cups? I don't know. But anyways, she's kind of like, yeah, she's kind of big. Now this guy here got nice white boots, what have you. So that's it for my buddies here, the gnomes. You can find them on the website. As you can see, I've had a lot of fun with these guys. So my producer, boss just said, Dave, you're screwing around too much. It's time to get back to work. So, as you can see, they're not zombie gnomes. They sure are. They could be traveling gnomes. They're definitely not those skeleton gnomes, but these are pretty funny gnomes. So, take care.